My sister vanished 5 years ago, but last week, she came back. She looked the same, sounded the same, but her reflection didn't move when she did. And the words she carved on my door still haunt me. She's still in the field. When my sister vanished, the world seemed to tilt slightly off its axis. One moment she was walking home from her friend's house, a route she'd taken countless times, and the next, she was gone. That was 5 years ago. 5 long years of sleepless nights, unanswered calls to the police, and endless interviews with strangers who swore they'd seen her face on a street corner or in the back of a car. But this story isn't about her disappearance. It's about what happened after. I still remember the day she came back. It was early autumn, the kind of morning where the fog clings to the ground like a living thing. I just made coffee when someone knocked on the door. 3 short knocks. Familiar. Hesitant. When I opened it, the cup slipped from my hand and shattered on the tiles. "Daniel," she said, her voice trembling, "it's me." It was Emma. My sister. Same brown eyes. Same dimple when she smiled. Same freckle near her lip. But something in me froze. Because behind those eyes, there was something else. Something hollow. I didn't speak for what felt like an eternity. My mind raced. Was this real? A dream? Some cruel trick? Then she reached out, touched my face gently, and whispered, "I missed you." Her hand was cold. Not the kind of cold you feel on a chilly morning, no, it was wrong. Lifeless. Still, I let her in. What else could I do? The first thing she did was walk straight to the living room. Everything looked the same framed photos, the same couch, the same faint smell of cinnamon from the candles I always burned in the evenings. She sat down and looked around like she was seeing it for the first time. "You kept it all the same," she said softly. "Of course I did," I replied. "Where have you been, Emma? What happened to you?" She hesitated. Her eyes flicked toward the window. Then, almost mechanically, she said, "I don't remember." That was the first lie. Over the next few days, I tried to convince myself she was just traumatized. That the strange little things she did, like locking her bedroom door at night, or whispering to herself when she thought I couldn't hear, were part of her recovery. But it didn't take long for the unease to grow. One night, I heard her crying. I stood outside her room, hand hovering over the doorknob, when I heard something else, a voice. A man's voice. Deep. Distorted. And it was coming from her. I froze. The next morning, she acted as if nothing happened. She smiled, made pancakes, and asked me about work. I tried to play along. I wanted to believe she was really my sister, the same girl who used to chase fireflies with me, who cried when our dog died, who sang off-key in the shower. But then she did something that shattered that illusion completely. She called me by a name I hadn't heard since childhood, a nickname that only my late mother used to call me. No one else knew it. Not even Emma. When I asked how she knew, her face twitched, just for a second, and she said, "You told me once." But I never did. That night, I went through the old photo albums, desperate to find some kind of proof, anything that would explain what was happening. But every photo of Emma felt wrong now. I couldn't look at them without feeling that crawling sensation at the back of my neck. Around 2 in the morning, I woke to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Soft. Barefoot. I thought it was Emma, maybe going to the bathroom, until I saw her door still closed. The footsteps stopped outside my room. "Daniel," a voice whispered. It was Emma's voice. But it came from inside my room. And that was when I knew, whatever came back to me that day, it wasn't my sister. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every creak of the floorboards, every sigh of the wind outside felt magnified 1,000 times over. I stayed perfectly still, clutching the flashlight I kept in the nightstand, watching the faint outline of my door against the dim light bleeding through the crack beneath it. When the sun finally rose, the house felt different. Heavy. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Emma was already in the kitchen, humming softly, an off-key tune that sounded eerily familiar. I realized, with a chill, it was the lullaby our mother used to sing before she died. A song Emma hadn't heard since she was 8. "Morning," she said cheerfully, her back to me. "You were up late." "How did you know that?" I asked before I could stop myself. She froze for half a heartbeat. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, she turned to face me, smiling as if the question had never been asked. "I could hear you moving around," she said. "But I hadn't moved all night." That was when I noticed her reflection in the kitchen window. It didn't match her movements. When she tilted her head, the reflection lagged, just by a fraction of a second. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. My stomach turned cold. I blinked, and when I looked again, everything was normal. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. That's what I told myself as I sat across from her, trying to eat the pancakes she made. But even the food tasted wrong, too sweet, almost metallic. "Emma," I said quietly, "do you remember the last thing before you disappeared?" She looked up, fork halfway to her mouth, and said, "You told me to run." My blood ran cold. That wasn't true. I hadn't been with her that night. I was miles away, at work. I forced a laugh. "No, I didn't." Her eyes narrowed slightly, and then that smile returned, wide, too wide. "Maybe you forgot," she said. Later that day, I started digging through her things. She'd brought back a small suitcase, the same one she'd taken the day she disappeared. Inside, everything looked staged. Clean clothes folded neatly, a hairbrush, a book she used to love. But the book, The Secret Garden, wasn't the same copy. The pages were too new. When I flipped it open, something fell out. A photograph. It was us. Only, in the picture, my face was scratched out, violently, over and over, until the paper tore. That night, I tried calling Detective Ruiz, the one who'd worked Emma's case years ago. But his number was disconnected. When I searched online, I found an obituary. He'd died last year. Cause of death, unknown. The next few days blurred together. Emma grew distant. Some nights I'd hear her pacing in her room, other times, I'd find her standing in the hallway in the middle of the night, facing the wall, whispering something under her breath. Once, I caught a word, hollow. Then, one evening, I found her sitting in the living room, staring at the old family portrait hanging above the fireplace. "Do you ever wonder," she said softly, without turning, "why she took me instead of you?" I froze. "Who?" "The woman in the field." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because that was something only I knew, a story I'd buried deep. When Emma first disappeared, there was one theory I never told anyone. A single witness, a farmer, said he'd seen a woman standing at the edge of the cornfield that night. A woman in white, long hair covering her face, just watching. He said Emma wasn't alone when she vanished. But the police dismissed it. Everyone did. Now Emma, or whatever she was, had brought it up. That night, I woke to a sound I'll never forget. The sound of someone scratching on my bedroom door. Slow. Deliberate. When I finally got the courage to look, I saw her, crouched on the floor, her fingers raking the wood. Her head snapped up when she saw me. Her eyes were black. Not dark brown, black. Like ink. "Let me in," she whispered, her voice layered, like more than one person was speaking. I slammed the door and locked it, heart pounding so loud. I could barely hear anything else. She kept scratching for hours. By morning, the marks on the door weren't scratches anymore. They were words. She's still in the field. I left the house that morning without looking back. I didn't pack. Didn't even grab my phone charger. All I could think about were the words carved into the wood, she's still in the field. The old field sat on the outskirts of town, near the abandoned Miller property. That place had been empty for decades, ever since the barn fire that took out half the property. Growing up, we weren't allowed near it. Emma and I used to make up stories about it, ghosts, witches, whatever our imaginations could conjure. Now, those stories didn't feel like games anymore. When I reached the edge of the property, fog rolled thick and low across the ground, wrapping the stalks of corn in a ghostly veil. The air was heavy with the scent of earth and rot. I hesitated for a moment before stepping through the creaking gate. Every sound seemed amplified, my heartbeat, the crunch of soil under my boots, the faint rustle of something moving just beyond sight. I kept walking, deeper into the field, until I saw it. A patch of ground where nothing grew. It was circular, about 10 feet wide, blackened like the earth had been scorched. In the center stood a single wooden cross, handmade, old, weathered. The name carved into it stopped my breath. Emma Kent. I fell to my knees. My hands trembled as I brushed away the dirt caked around the letters. Someone had buried her here. Someone had known. And whatever was in my house, it wasn't her. That realization hit me like a physical blow. I started digging with my hands, desperate, half-crazed, ignoring the pain as splinters and stones tore at my fingers. I had to see. I had to know. The first thing I uncovered was hair, brown, matted, still clinging to fragments of scalp. Then bone. A small hand. A locket. Her locket. The one I'd given her for her 12th birthday. I remember. Screaming, not out of fear, but out of guilt. Because suddenly it all made sense. The way Emma looked at me. The way she knew things she shouldn't. She wasn't haunting me. She was wearing me down. When I stumbled back toward the house that night, exhausted, covered in dirt and blood, I saw her standing at the window. Waiting. Smiling. "Where did you go?" she asked when I came inside. I didn't answer. I just looked at her, really looked at her. Her skin was different now. It shimmered faintly in the dim light, like something just beneath it was moving. Crawling. Her eyes, once so full of warmth, were pure black now, endless. "You found her," she said, her voice echoing in that layered, otherworldly tone again. "Good." Then she stepped closer, and I saw something horrifying, bits of dirt falling from her bare feet. She'd been there. "Who are you?" I whispered. Her smile widened, stretching her face in a way no human face should stretch. "She wanted to come home," she said softly. "I brought her back." My breath caught in my throat. "What do you mean?" "She called to me," the thing said. "She wanted to see you again. So I let her in. And then I understood. The field. The woman the farmer saw. The scratching at my door. Emma's voice calling from inside my room. It was never Emma trying to come home. It was the thing that took her. And now it had taken her place. I ran. Out the front door, across the yard, into the night, not daring to look back. The last thing I heard was her voice behind me, faint but clear, calling through the darkness. "Daniel, don't leave me again." I moved 3 towns over after that. New job. New number. I told myself I'd start fresh. But every so often, I find something out of place, a faint melody of that old lullaby playing in the distance, or 3 soft knocks at the door late at night. Once, I even found a footprint outside my window. Bare. Small. Caked with dirt. And each time, I tell myself it's impossible. That she can't have followed me here. But when I lie in bed, staring into the dark, I hear her voice, right beside my ear, whispering the same 3 words over and over again. It's not over.